Ground Dispatch here on the SDH Network. I'm Madison Cruz. Joined with me is Jason Longshore. We're here at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground, getting ready for Atlanta United hosting the New York Red Bulls this Saturday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And we know a little bit about New York Red Bulls. I would arguably say that, they're kind of like an unspoken rivalry almost between both of these sides.
I don't think it's unspoken. I think maybe it's died down a little bit over the years. You go back to the playoffs in 2018. This has been a team that Atlanta United has typically struggled with. They have not gotten a win at Red Bull Arena. They have gotten wins at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They did last year, which was a really important win to get into the playoffs. You know what you're going to get out of the Red Bulls. Sandro Schwartz, I think, is maybe modified it a little bit, and we'll get deeper into it on Thursday. Feels like they're a team that can play a little bit more with some of their additions this year, but they're still going to do the things that they do. They're not really too hung up on possession. They're going to be direct. They're going to press you. And I think you saw today in the training session some of those things that Ronnie Dyla and his group are preparing for. You saw elements of that today.
Well, before we get into Red Bulls, let's take a couple of days back after, getting the chance to sit on it a little bit. What were your thoughts on the Charlotte game after the team went on the road and lost 2-0?
I think looking back at it, this was a better overall performance than you might think. And some of it's numbers, and numbers don't always tell you the whole story. But they created a lot of chances. They had a lot of shot-creating actions. Charlotte really didn't have that many in either category. You did a good job in winning the ball back. There were lots of things that were good about it, but in the big moments, and Charlotte's big moments came off of just bombing the ball long and winning the second ball or winning the first ball or, just getting into the attacking half. They convert. And Atlanta had enough chances in the first half to get something on the board. I think we saw this in the Montreal game as well. Everybody's going to talk about the second half performance, and you should, because it wasn't good enough. It wasn't as good as the first half. However, if you get more goals in the first half, if you get a goal in Charlotte in the first half, if you get more goals against Montreal in the first half, we're having a really different conversation about the second 45. When you're in control of games, you've got to find those goals to show for it. Control is such an interesting thing to measure, and we had the conversation in the game in Charlotte. That game ended up being controlled by the goals that were put into the back of the net by Charlotte. It wasn't really any other metric that gives you control. They took control because they scored. And from there, you're able to sit back and defend. And you scored 2 goals. Charlotte's only lost one time ever at home when they've scored twice. This is a really good defensive team. You can't give them a couple goals. You did. You lost.
One thing that every single player that we talked to, and Ronnie Dyla as well afterwards, is just you got to keep that consistency for 90 minutes. And hopefully we'll get to see that on Saturday. And that's something that they've been working on in training as well. So what did you see on the training pitch today from the team?
I think you saw a team that's preparing to play against a direct team like the Red Bulls. You were battling to win second balls. I think you saw a team that was very vocal as well, and that's something that Ronnie has talked about that he wants to see with this group. He wants to see more communication. At times you want over-communication, and it felt like after the performance in Charlotte, you got a lot of that on the training pitch today. So good performances from a number of different players. I think it stands out that Pedro Amador and Brooks Lennon were a part of training from start to finish. That's something that has not been the case. So I don't know what their availability will be for the weekend yet, but having them, and especially Brooks, being involved in challenges and taking hits and getting knocked down and getting up, that's a really good sign for getting him very close to being back. Fitness-wise, I don't think you have an issue with Brooks. I think it's going to be more about, is the shoulder okay? Does it feel right? With Pedro getting to start the session and finish the session, both of them you have to feel like could be in contention to play on Saturday.
Well, in media today, we had the opportunity to catch up with Bartosz Slisz and Matt Edwards to talk a little bit about this upcoming match on Saturday.
Playing against teams like the Red Bulls who are very direct and like to press, how does that change kind of the game for you specifically?
Of course, we have to adapt a little bit, and it will be really important the first and second ball. So we're gonna focus on these things, but also we have to keep our game, like keep our structure, be together, and just play soccer, because this is the most important, and I think it's our strong point to create a lot of chances, and I hope it will be that.
How have you liked the chemistry that is building with you, with Click, with Alexi, but also with Miguel coming inside and combining with you?
of course, we still learn. I still learn the Migi because he's different player than, for example, Saba. Saba last year he played on the right, so I knew that I can play him or to the feet, but he gonna stay on the line, or I can play behind the line. Migi is more like just find the space between the lines, and I have to find him or Alexi, and when I gonna find them, I'm sure that we're gonna create the situation.
Looking ahead to the Red Bulls, what are the challenges that they bring?
They're a very direct team, so I think for us it's just staying compact and winning first and second balls, being good in the air. I think those are the biggest things we need to focus on this week, and then 90 minutes we have to put on a performance. It can't just be one half.
One of the big talking points after the game was being consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And something I asked a lot of people was, how do you define consistency in your game? What are you trying to do to be consistent?
For me, it's, doing my job to the best of my ability at all times. I don't want to have players having to do my job for me, so I think that's my biggest takeaway is whatever role you have on the field, doing that at 100% and being the best you can at it.
Really interesting stuff from both Bartek and Matt today in media. What are some of the things that stuck out to you?
Yeah, two really thoughtful guys, and I think they try to give you a lot of good insight. Asking Matt about how he kind of defines consistency, it was interesting how he does that for himself. I think, Matt's a player who he wants to be a coach when his time as a player is done. So he's always thinking about the game and how he can be better and how he can help make the team better. Bartosz, I think, is also a very thoughtful guy, and he's always thinking football. He talked about how, he's one of the first guys out every day on the training pitch because he loves it. So I think seeing both of those guys kind of process a difficult game on the road and kind of bounce back and speak to everybody here today. It's cool to see both of them as two guys who are maybe two of the quieter guys in the group, speak and be very thoughtful about what they liked and didn't like about Saturday and what they want to see better this upcoming Saturday.
And you have Matt Edwards, obviously a really young player stepping into this role. Just kind of understanding, his connections and building on that. I asked him a little bit about him and his relationship building with Miguel Almiron on the sideline and on that right side, and how it's continuously growing, and having someone like Miguel kind of help him out where he needs to go, what he needs to do, what he can do better. And then Bartosz Slisz, having him be in that midfield along with Click, along with Jay, along with Tristan, and learning more about those relationships and how solid that group of midfielders are.
You bring up Miguel, and it was interesting that it was a very different kind of answer and talking point from both Matt and from Bartosz. Matt talked about how Miguel holds him accountable, but is also praising him when things are going well. You love to have that when you're a player come to the academy and probably sat in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in those games in 2017 and 18, looking up to a player like Miguel, and now you're playing with him, and he's able to kind of raise you up and help you be better. But also Bartosz, and I think this was a really important thing, what Miguel does in the way that he plays, it does change the way all of the connecting pieces fit. It changes the puzzle for Atlanta United. That takes time. He's not a player like Saba, like Bartosz said. He's not a player like really anybody in this team. He's going to go find that space between the lines. He's very instinctual, and you want to let him do that. But that means you've got to adjust to that. So at times, Bartosz is going to have to cover space for Miguel. At times, you have to kind of get your head up and where is he? Where did he go this time? It's so fascinating to see those connections build as we're going here in this season. There's still work to do, and it will always be an evolution. But when you have guys that don't play like they're playing from a textbook, I think it will make you better in the long run, but you might have some bumps along the road to get there.
Well, it's going to be a big challenge on Saturday going up against New York Red Bulls, and that game will start at 7:30 p.m. You can watch it on MLS Season Pass, or you can listen to it on Star 94 on Saturday, where myself and Abe Gordon will have the pregame show for you, and then Mike Conti and Jason Longshore will have the call for you shortly after.